North America's Cloud9 tops Group B with
instantly backed that up yesterday with a pair of 30-minute wins. Jensen was, of course, the kind of standout player. He took control of game 1 pretty heavily and then was able to show that Galio picking game 2.
Yeah, and we expect great things of Jensen, but it's when the rest of Cloud9's members, specifically Contracts yesterday on his Nidalee performance, also step up, that Cloud9 fans get to get excited. You know, we know that they've got the caliber on that team, a world champion up into the top lane, consistent performer in Sneaky, 5 world champions underneath, world's appearances underneath his belt, and now they're starting to get more of that showtime and get more of that power back in them.
And I just want to continue to see them mix it up. Jensen now on a tankier champion, sometimes more the assassin, but definitely getting support across the board. On the opposite side in Group A, Team WE still definitely looking like the favorites, did not show the same dominance, however, as their Group B counterparts.
Yeah, and I think, it was probably a harder group overall a little bit, just looking at the strength of teams in there. Everyone was saying, oh, Gambit's in here, it's going to be a little bit tougher, but they definitely did not wow quite the way that we were expecting.
Yeah, no excuses. That was a false start for Team W against Lion. Lion out-team fought them, out-skirmished them, and put up a very good front, but ultimately it was Team WE having control over the macro priority on the map and taking the game as well. Than just cleaning out Gambit Esports.
Made it look very easy in the end, but it's crucial right now for Team W to show their dominance in their rematch versus Lion Gaming, because if they drop that game, they could find themselves in a tiebreaker scenario, and based on Lion's performance yesterday, it's really not out of the realm of possibility.
Right, because even though they did struggle a little bit to keep up with the macro of World Elite when they played later in the day versus Gambit, they completely destroyed them, and it was very impressive to see, and it shows that it wasn't really a flash in the pan or a fluke performance of just WE playing maybe a little too conservative or anything. They actually have the chops to go toe-to-toe with them.
And frankly, that's been the biggest surprise of the tournament so far. Everyone was looking at Gambit Esports, giving them the benefit of the doubt with some of those legacy names that they were going to be the big, emerging region team. But it was Lion Gaming, probably the most decorated team in League of Legends, 9 domestic titles to their name, that just came in flying.
And we look historically, they have in the past had very good performances in the group stages. They've never quite been able to transition it onto the world stage until now. But now that they're here, they are showing up. They are clearly proving themselves worthy of the group so far.
Yeah, it always feels just like a little short of coming up big at these international tournaments. The wildcard play-ins previously, MSI, they had Gigabyte Marines in the group. It felt like something was just always barely roadblocking them from having that breakout performance.
And the thing is they fall back a lot on their individual mechanical talent, specifically in their AD carry White Lotus. He put up huge numbers yesterday, and then their mid laner in Seiya, who just went Super Saiyan. That scatter of the week on Team WE still gives me nightmares.
And really, when I looked at that team, I thought, hey, White Lotus is going to be good. The real one that surprised me, though, White Lotus, Seiya, these are guys you know to perform. Adi historically as well, but he had been struggling recently domestically, comes onto the world stage, Lee Sin immediately. Next game, all having impact in the early game as well. It does feel like Lion are showing us something more than they showed even in their regional league.
Yeah, I think the Lee Sin game in particular was impressive just because it was a very difficult game to execute in the late game as a Lee Sin. A lot of defensive tools for WE as well as the carries having mobility.
He found Mystic like every single time.
Yeah, very impressive to see.
Yeah, the Gragas and the Jaina, probably not where a Lee Sin expects to get in, but did make it work. However, we'll see what teams can earn themselves that spot in the play-in stage knockout groups for A and B. First up, Team 1 Esports are going to hope to derail the Cloud9 hype train, followed by that rematch between Lion Gaming and Team WE, which could be the decider for the #1 and #2 seed. Then the remaining 6 teams, will play out the rest of the round robin, and we will post any tiebreakers at the end of the day. Really, guys, I'm looking most to that game 2, Lion versus WE. I think this is the big one. This is the one that has looked the closest out of all the matches we've seen so far.
Probably the most hype one to look at, but I think both game 1 and game 2 today are super important because if the current #1 seeds, Cloud9 and WE, are able to pick up wins, then they are officially on to the bracket stage, not necessarily as the 1 seed, but they're definitely moving on to the play later on in the tournament.
Yeah, and that said, it's still about maintaining form. Even if Lion and Team 1 aren't able to upset the power regions necessarily, though Lion has a pretty good shot at it, it's still then, the other teams looking across them in the groups, that means that they could exit out in 2nd seed, and suddenly they're entering into a very scary best of 5.
Yeah, and that scary best of 5 is going to be interesting. We haven't even seen Group C and D play yet, so I'm wondering really what the relative strengths are going to be of these other groups, because as we talked about Group B already, so incredibly Cloud9 dominated, where Group A feels much, much closer.
And I think that's the thing is, it's hard to say what's going to happen when you head into each group because we were saying, oh, Gambit's probably the second one to watch for in Group A. I don't know where it's Lion, so as you get ready for, C and D games coming up tomorrow, you're going to have the same kind of things where you're not sure exactly how it's going to shape out. But today, of course, 2 teams really what the relative strengths are going to be of these other groups, because as we talked about Group B already, so incredibly Cloud9 dominated, where Group A feels much, much closer. And I think that's the thing is, it's hard to say what's going to happen when you head into each group because we were saying, oh, Gambit's probably the second one to watch for in Group A. I don't know where it's lying. So as you get ready for, C and D games coming up tomorrow, you're going to have the same kind of things where you're not sure exactly how it's going to shape out. But today, of course, 2 teams will be going home as well. So that's a huge storyline, too.
It is at least nice to continue to hear the confidence from Gambit Esports, though, that they say that they can still take the games, that they don't seem entirely morally crushed right now, and they can come out hard and fast.
Yeah, it's going to be C, but of course you can be sure to make sure you leave your mark on the competition with the newest addition to the Championship line. And as a reminder, 25% of the proceeds from Championship Ash and Word Skin purchases are going to be added to the World's prize pool, and an additional 25% will also be donated to charity. And you can also unlock the Championship Ash chroma through the World's missions, which will be available through all of Worlds. Now, before we get into the day's game, we'd like to inform you of an emergency substitution to 1907 Fenerbahce's starting roster. Due to issues acquiring Visa's starting jungler Move will not be able to participate at Worlds, and he's going to be replaced by Vici Gaming's jungler Crash.